If you want people talking about you, if you want people telling stories about you, you have to give them a reason.
In today's episode, I have Vance Morris. Let's see how innovation meets artistry as we forge something extraordinary together.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
Hello, Guilders, and welcome to another episode of The Innovation Forge. I am your host, David Dysart, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on this journey into the innovative world of higher education and adaptive enrollment management. Have you ever wondered why some experiences just stick with us, while others disappear in the moment that they actually end? What if the key to lasting loyalty isn't in big gestures, but in designing every tiny touch point with care? In higher education, we spend so much time chasing the next big innovation, new programs, new platforms, new technologies. But what if the true transformation comes from thinking like Disney? Today's guest, Vance Morris, spent a decade helping shape unforgettable experiences at Walt Disney World. Since then, he's applied Disney-caliber service principles to everything from NASA to carpet cleaning. And now he's sharing how you can apply the same principles at your institution. From handwritten notes to customer journey mapping, Vance challenges us to rethink how we build connection and loyalty. Not just during the campus visit, but at every stage of a student or stakeholder journey. Stick around as we explore surprise and delight, and how it's not just for theme parks. And let's see how experience takes shape today. Vance Morris spent a decade at Walt Disney World, helping open and manage some of its most iconic resorts and restaurants, including designing and launching Chef Mickey's, Disney's flagship character dining experience. After Disney, he brought that same magic to clients like NASA, the Smithsonian, and Legal Seafoods, before building his own thriving service business. Today, as founder of Deliver Service Now Institute, he teaches organizations how to create Disney-caliber customer experiences and turn loyalty into lasting success.
I appreciate it, David. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. I've listened to you on other podcasts. I'm like, the way you approach, whether it's customer service or building experiences, that's perfect. I'm so glad we were able to connect and get you on the podcast. And one of the other big topics on the podcast is innovation, but that often gets framed as flashy or just disruptive for disruptiveness sake. But you emphasize dependable systems. How do you see the craft of shaping small, repeatable touch points into something stronger than just this one big idea?
Sure. Well, first thing you have to do is map out your entire customer journey from beginning to end. So what is the first point the customer interacts with your business? Is it the website? Is it a phone call? Is it a postcard, whatever? And then every interaction the customer has with you, you put that on the journey. And the reason we do this is because then now we can look at every single point where we touch them and figure out a way to create an experience out of each one of those. So that one, it's not just one big, okay, here's the confetti, here's the balloons, and it's a big hoopla. It is now a succession of tiny or big experiences that extend not only pre-purchase, but during purchase or during service, depending on what you sell. And then most importantly is on the end with customer retention, because if the customer's not having a good experience, there's no way you're going to keep them. I hate to break it to everybody. It's just not, it's not going to happen. And then when you have all of these individual touch points, you can now prioritize where are you going to get the most bang for your buck? What area needs the most focus that's going to have the biggest impact on the customer? And then you go on to the next thing and then to the next thing. And if you document it right, you would probably have a service team, kind of an ad hoc brainstorming session, either with your team or yourself. I work with a lot of solopreneurs, and I'm like, you just got to put 30 minutes aside and think about how your customers are interacting with you and where can you improve. But you would have, you revisit them every 6, 12, 18 months and say, how do we do that better? So this is what Disney does. I mean, they have taken boring, mundane things that we all have to do and just turned them into experiences. We all have to answer the telephone or we have to reply to an email. Disney's just figured out a way to make it fun and make it enjoyable.
And I love that the interaction piece, I think, is so important, but so easy to overlook. And in a digital era, when sending communications and holding events often just feels so transactional, what are the elements that turn these interactions into a symbol that actually carries weight and sparks that storytelling?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. And I get it a lot from people that spend, especially e-commerce, and people that spend a lot of time online. And my strong recommendation is they get offline and use FedEx, Postal Service, UPS, your delivery people of choice. So let's say you are having a online event, and you're going to have 10 people, and it's a it's a round table virtual coffee. Well, that's nice, but what about sending those 10 people, a coffee mug and some coffee with a nice little letter that says, hey, we're going to be having a coffee pretty soon. Once I've sent you everything you need now for a great cup of coffee. Go ahead and brew that thing up before we have the meeting. And people will be like, everybody gets a coffee mug every now and again, but they don't usually get the coffee. And then they don't get the instructions to tell them what to do. So you got to, this is like a mini sales letter, but you also have to tell them step by step, okay, the reason I sent you the coffee cup, we're having a virtual coffee. Go make the coffee. Because most people are not going to bust out your branded coffee mug on New Year's Eve when they're having a party. It just ain't happening. But, they might have it on their desk, and maybe it becomes, if you get them to use it, maybe it becomes their go-to mug. Who knows? But you really got to get as much as you can offline, because that's where you can make the impact, because nobody is doing it. At all. E-commerce isn't doing it. Well, a couple of e-commerce brands I'm working with will do. I've got a luxury shampoo manufacturer who's one of my clients, also does some stuff with all natural hair growth. And they've put together a tremendous, it's spread out over the entire calendar year, but of individual little touches all through the mail. Now they have a product, yes, that maybe gives them a little bit of an advantage. But some of the stuff they send them is just, like a little recipe card, and it says, here's, 9 tips for not having your makeup run, or something silly like that. People love that stuff. And the reason they like it is it's not a sales pitch. So, how would you feel if the only time you ever heard from a company is when they want money, right? That's what, the mattresses go on sale at Memorial Day. Well, they want money. Wouldn't it be great just to get something from a company that's not trying to sell you something? Now, of course, the phone number's on there, your logo's on there. Yeah, that's kind of implied, maybe you should call, but it's not an overt ask for money. So I really think if you want to make an impact, if you want to take a event and really make it memorable, you got to get offline somehow.
Yeah, I remember when with the pandemic shutdowns, and one of the little conferences that I went to, they sent us it was virtual now, and they sent us like this little cheese board. That's the only virtual conference I remember anything about, was because they had that kind of really human, tactile presence in my mind. My wife and I still talk about that all the time.
Yeah,
And it'd be different.
And real quick, just on gifting, since we're talking about cheese boards and coffee mugs, as I mentioned, nobody's going to bust that thing out, for a party. But if you so I have a kitchen and bath remodeler, and high-end kitchen and bath remodeler, and we got him. He now gives out a custom, it's nice, like 2-inch thick cutting board, and a set of Cutco knives, and the family's initials are monogrammed on both the knives and the cutting board. His logo is nowhere on there. Now, those people, just like you, are thinking of that conference with the cheese board. Every time he pulls that thing out, he's thinking, "Oh my God, that guy Richard with the kitchen, I got a toilet that needs to be replaced. Maybe I'll call him." So be thoughtful with your gifts and not always buy into all of the promotional tchotchkes. I mean, they have a place. Don't get me wrong; they've got a place. But when you're gifting, promotional products are not a gift. It's a blatant ask for a sale.
Yeah, and I've definitely taken that with my own clients that I have, where like creating music and creating like these little trading cards for them, and whether they're guests on the podcast or just client work that I've done. And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's just a nice personal touch that no one else in the space is doing, that just kind of builds that goodwill." And they're like, "Oh, this is great. This person is interacting with me in that way." So I love that so much. And it's just so easy to overlook because we're just so focused on putting out fires that we don't think about those kinds of forward gestures.
And you can do this systematic. You can automate this. I mean, if you have a good CRM, that works off of keywords or tags or whatever, you can automate a lot of this stuff, and you could be sending Cutco knives and not even know about it until the bill gets in the next week. Who did I send these knives to? And then you go and you look, oh, okay. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be physical manual labor on the business owner's part.
Yeah. And I think that there can be a tension between following patterns and tradition and introducing these pieces of flair. How do you balance that systematic service with moments of surprise and spontaneity that can feel human, even if it is automated?
Sure. I used to do handwritten thank you cards. So I have, here in Maryland, I own 3 home service businesses, one of them being a carpet cleaning company. And when we were getting started, I was handwriting. So I've been doing this now 19 years, handwriting thank you letters for all of the customers. So I would sit down and, Friday afternoon, okay, who'd we clean for this week? Write them all out. But it got to the point where I just don't have time to write 50 of them. And now we're writing over 100 of them every week. We got to figure some kind of automation out. First thing I did was went out and hired some grandmas. And so you go down to, I kid you not, go down to the local senior center. And I said, "Hey, look, I need some thank you notes written every week. Who's interested?" And I got 3 ladies for 2.5 years, just for coffee and donuts, would sit down and handwrite all of my thank you letters for me. Systemized, but personalized. So you can certainly do that. And then you build in systematically so that, like, my top 5 customers every month, we mail them a cake. So here in Maryland, we have a state cake. It's called the Smith Island cake. And excuse me, every month I find my top 5 customers of the month and mail them a cake. Now, who's mailing cakes? Let alone a carpet cleaner mailing a cake. It just doesn't happen. So those are like little surprise and delight things that can be systemized and personalized, and people, I mean, if you want people talking about you, if you want people telling stories about you, you have to give them a reason to talk about you. I mean, they're going to talk about you, but you want to direct the narrative. You don't want them just coming up with anything. And usually, when I work with my clients and coaching members, we try to get across that what we want our customers to say at the end of any interaction is, "Oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at the oil change today." Now, that conversation usually does not happen at the dinner table, right? You just didn't go home and say, "Oh my God, honey, you'll never guess what happened at the oil change." But if you went to one of my clients who is a direct competitor to like Jiffy Lube and Quick Lube and those guys, we turned his station into a 1950 style service station where 4 guys run out. They got little bow ties and white shirts. And, one guy squeegees your windshield. The other one checks the air pressure in the tire. They escort you into the waiting room where there's actually today's newspaper. And there's a barista making your favorite coffee drink.
Oh
Now,
no.
you're going to talk about that experience because you were not expecting a barista at the oil change, right? So otherwise, it would have just been, if you just gone to Jiffy Lube, all right, well, here's $70. Yeah, got the oil change. Yeah, he left a little smudge on my steering wheel, or he didn't wipe it off with the rag. So it can storytelling is not only from the business owner's point of view, but you want your customers telling stories about you. And that's where the viral posts will come in. That's where the word of mouth marketing comes in. It's just really powerful.
Yeah, so powerful getting those new clients, keeping clients. And I think that most people chase avenues of like new audiences, new people that we can reach out to as proof of growth. But I know you argue sometimes that retention is the true driver here. What are the overlooked embers that a leader can be tending to before running out to new tools, new audiences, new populations?
Well, I'll preface this with I'm not anti new people because you do need a certain number if you're going to grow the business. If you went to Disney today, 80% of the people that are in the park today have been there before. It's only 20% new. And I say, if that ratio is good enough for Disney, it's good enough for me. So my goal is 80% repeat customers, 20% bringing in the new ones. And when you do, you have to know your numbers. And I stress this to my clients all the time. You've got to understand what it costs to bring in a new customer. What is your customer acquisition cost? And I'm surprised at the number of people that have no idea. So, for instance, I just got my pay-per-click reports for September. And for one of my businesses, it's $126 to get a new customer in the front door. That's the pay-per-click ad. That's my guy answering the phone, CRM, all the other stuff that goes $126. That's a lot of money. Others are paying more, I'm sure. But for me, our minimum service charge is $199. So if all they do is the minimum, I only got $70 left over to pay the tech, put gas in the van and everything. If you compare that to my existing customers, it only costs me $22 a year to retain those existing customers. Every time I clean for them, I'm $100 more profitable because I don't have to go out and buy them again. And they're more susceptible to upsells, cross sells, new services. Oh my God! We launched glass polishing. So if you have a shower and it's got all those hard water stains on it, and you can never get it off with the little scrubbies. So we've got a system that'll take care of that. And I didn't have to go out and get new customers to get this service up and running. It was existing customers that are already, the whole know, like, and trust thing, and like our work. They said, oh, yeah, I have this problem. Great. I've seen their work before. They're going to do a good job. And so we just send out a postcard to our entire, customer list, and boom, the service takes off. So you can't not focus on them. It's got to be intentional. So I'll ask people, I said, do you have a marketing budget? Most people will say yes. But then I ask them, how much of that marketing budget is devoted to customer retention? And they look at me like I got three heads. I said, just based on the math alone, you should be paying attention. And it's got to be a mix, as we talked before, of selling and relationship creation. So if you can create an emotional connection with your customer, they're never leaving you. And this is what so many small businesses miss, is that they try to puff themselves up and become a big company or big corporation. And, I joke, I've got a carpet cleaner guy. He's a couple towns over from us. And when you call his phone, he says, press 1 for residential, press 2 for commercial, press 3 for janitorial. He's got like 5 options. He's one dude with a cell phone. Why do that? You alienate people because it doesn't sound like you're from the town. Oh, he must be a big company. He's not local. I want a local guy. Um, so when you're creating emotional connections, this is the time not to sell. So I've got 3 steps for customer retention, and they are just drop dead easy. And people pay me thousands of dollars for this, so you're getting your money's worth out of this podcast, folks. But you want to do some kind of newsletter, preferably in the mail. And the newsletter is to entertain. You're not there to sell anything, it's entertaining. And it's also there to continue the emotional connection that hopefully you made during the consumption of your product or the delivery of your service. And so I shamelessly use my children in my marketing. And they're all grown now. But my daughter was in ballet, and from the age of like 5 to 12. And so we'd go to the recital, and I'd take the picture of her in her little tutu, and I said, oh, wouldn't that be cute in the newsletter? So I put it in the newsletter. And then every year like the tutu picture, went in, and she, was just growing up, and she got too old for it. And she was probably 10 or 11 years old. We're in the grocery store, and this lady comes running up to us. She says, oh my God, Emma, how was your recital? And she and I look at each other like, who's this nutty lady? We got to go hide in the frozen food section. And then I had to think, she's one of my customers. She has watched my children grow up over the last 10 years. She is never leaving me. I would have to colossally screw up for her to leave. She's not leaving until she moves or dies. That's the kind of emotional connection you have to foster in order to get to that 80% threshold of retention or repeat customers. So you got the newsletter, that's your emotional connection piece. Then you send out a promotional postcard. That's your promo for the month. Okay, yep, we got a special on, Jibbity Bilibits or whatever. And so you can sell in that thing. And then you want to hit them once a week with an email. See, I'm not anti-online, so I'm just still do email. And the email is a combination of the emotional stuff from the newsletter and the promotional stuff from the postcards. You don't have to really invent anything new. You just use assets you already have, and you send those out once a week. Doing that, I've used that system for 17 years. And I have not only home service businesses on this, I have financial advisors, attorneys, the shampoo manufacturer, and a number of other businesses that take this same system, and it works in any industry. And it works in B2B as well, not just B2C.
Yeah, I love the fact that it is just so universal, being able to build that relationship. It doesn't matter who you're building it with, but when you build it, you build that trust. You build, like you said, those good feelings towards it, and then you have a relationship. You're not just selling whatever your service product is. So I love that so much. And I think just so many great takeaways from the entire interview. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. Before we wrap up, though, I do want to make sure that every artisan gets to leave their mark and in this signature. I'll ask you a few of these quick rapid fire questions and get your thoughts.
Sure.
So what's one tool, digital or otherwise, that you rely on daily to keep your work running smoothly?
Two is an app. One is an app called Boomerang, which is saves my inbox. So if there's something I don't want to attend to right now, I can just hit the Boomerang button and it'll pop it back up in my inbox eventually. And it has if you send an email, it's got a little box you can check that if they don't reply within X hours or days, that a reminder will pop up for me to follow up. And my employees have now started calling it, I just got boomeranged. So they enjoy it. And then the other one is old-fashioned analog. I have a egg timer. I am a huge proponent of the Pomodoro effect. Simply, it's no distractions, no ringy dingy, no nothing. You just focus on one task for 50 minutes. That's it. No distractions. And that's why I don't use a digital timer, because I would be distracted. So I got the egg timer. And then you get up and you walk the dog, eat lunch, whatever, and just get away from it. But I get more done in that 50 minutes than a lot of people get done in like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I love that so much. And what's caught your attention or maybe sparked creativity or innovation with you lately?
Really just seeing the low bar of customer service and customer experience that is out there right now. It doesn't take much to get, above the bar. And your competitors are lazy. I can tell you that. And if you're listening to a podcast, that means you're already a step above. So you don't have to do much to be above your competitors. But I mean, I get that creativity or the spark just from my environment. Maybe it's something from my news feed. Maybe it's, just something I saw when I was out walking a dog or at dinner. And I'm like, somebody should do something about that. Fine, I'll do it.
Love it. And if you were starting your career over today, what's one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
Um, Learn marketing first. Learn how to be a marketer of your business, because doing your thing, anybody can do it. There's people out there that are carpet cleaners. I'd love to say I clean better than most of the others in my area. And I probably do, but not to the extent of 40 or 50%, which is where my prices are. I'm 40% higher than my closest competitor. But what was the original question? I completely went off track there.
Advice to your younger self.
Oh, advice to my younger self: learn marketing. If you can be, I've bought two of my competitors, and one of them said to me when we were doing the closing paperwork, "You out marketed me." So be a marketer of your thing, and then be the doer of your thing.
Yeah, it's so easy to just get into the mindset of like, oh, this is how everybody else markets or reaches out, and then everyone just sounds. There's no differentiation. So
right.
That's great. And what's one project, goal, or maybe even an aspiration that you have on the block to work on?
One of the things I do every once in a while are boot camps down at Walt Disney World. So I have one coming up in February that I am actually retooling some of the classes. But it's 3 days at Walt Disney World, half in the classroom, half in the theme park. So it's kind of a walking classroom. And really excited. It's in February, and really excited for me, because it's getting new material out, a little bit more workshoppy than I have in the past. So I'm really excited about putting this together.
Oh, very exciting. And if the listeners wanted to reach out to you, connect about what you do or what you've talked about today, where is the best place to message you? I'll be sure to add it.
Certainly LinkedIn. I don't think there's too many Vance Morrises out there. And then if you want, I have got a great download. It's called 52 Ways to Wow Your Customer Without Breaking the Bank. And you can get that at wow52ways.com.
But thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I know what you shared helps me already in the past and helps me today, but I know it'll also help all the listeners. So thank you for taking the time today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
I appreciate you having me on, David. Thanks so much.
Let's get into the blueprint breakdown, your at-a-glance guide to the biggest ideas and most actionable insights from today's episode. Whether you're in admissions, advancement, student affairs, or academic leadership, these lessons can help you engineer more intentional, memorable experiences. Map every touchpoint. Innovation doesn't require reinvention. Start by mapping your student or stakeholder journey, from first contact to long-term engagement, and ask, how could this feel like an experience instead of a transaction? 2. Offline equals unexpected. In a digital-first world, physical mail or a tactile gesture feels radically human. A small, personalized item sent before an event can actually spark storytelling and create stronger memory anchors. 3. Vance reminds us, 80% of Disney Park guests are repeat visitors. In higher ed, every student we retain is a student we don't have to enroll. Every admit we matriculate is a handful that don't need to apply. Every inquiry that applies is hundreds that we don't need to put at the top of the funnel through buys and ads and other costly acquisitions. 4. Automate the personal. Systematization doesn't mean losing the human touch. Vance showed us even surprise and delight moments can be part of a replicable system. And 5, design for word of mouth. You'll never guess what happened at the oil change. That should be your new bar. Design experiences so unexpected or thoughtful that your students, alumni, or donors can't help but talk about them. From newsletters to monogrammed cutting boards, Vance shows us that engineering experience is equal parts creativity and discipline. And most importantly, it's a mindset that works in any industry, including higher ed. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast, or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together.
With a sparkle in the show, turn Chef Mickey's into magic. Now he helps your business grow. Ain't about the big reveal, confetti in the air. It's every little moment that shows your people care. Why? You gotta give them a reason to talk about it loud. It'll make them smile at the mailbox, not just lost in the crowd. This is a coffee with a mug, here's a cake in the mail. Selling, not just selling a service, it's telling a tale. Give them a reason to stay, to share, to believe. 'Cause loyalty's magic. You just gotta weave. You just gotta weave. And no, I'm talking about the oil change at the store. Unless there's bow ties, baristas, and a little bit more. You gotta give them a reason to talk about you loud. Let them make a smile at the mailbox, not just lost in the crowd. That's just a cutting board gift. Here's a handwritten note. To share, to believe, 'cause loyalty's magic. You just gotta weave. You just gotta weave. When you got gold on your path, retention is profit, connection is king. Now say it with me, let the touch point sing. Why? You gotta give them a reason to stay in your lane. Why? Not just another vendor, not just another name. So make them laugh, make them cry with the smallest of moves. Sound experience, engineering, and baby it grooves. To believe, make them fans for life before they ever leave.